Subject 4A. Dose 500 micrograms. Time 2 a.m.
In the early 1950s, the United States was afraid. Not of bombs, not of armies, but of something far less visible. The fear was that the enemy had learned how to control the mind. Rumors came from behind the Iron Curtain. Stories of prisoners who confessed without resistance, who obeyed commands they did not remember receiving. The question was simple. If they can do this, what happens to us? Inside government offices, the problem was redefined. This was no longer psychology. It was national security. If the mind could be broken, it could be rebuilt. If memory could be erased, loyalty could be rewritten. The program began without a public name. No announcement, no law, no consent. It existed only on paper, in budgets, in signatures, in classified memos marked top secret. The agency responsible was not a hospital, not a university, but an intelligence service, the Central Intelligence Agency. Doctors were recruited, psychiatrists, chemists, researchers from respected institutions. Some knew who they worked for, others did not. Funding arrived quietly. Questions were discouraged. The objective was never clearly defined. That was intentional. Can we erase memory? Can we implant ideas? Can a human being be reduced to a controllable state? The program would later be called MKUltra, but at the time, even the name was hidden. What followed was not a single experiment. It was hundreds, across prisons, hospitals, universities, and safe houses. The Cold War was already being fought, not on borders, but inside the human mind. Programs like MKUltra do not begin in laboratories. They begin in offices, with folders, budgets, and signatures placed carefully at the bottom of a page. At the top of the chain was the Central Intelligence Agency, an institution built on secrecy, designed to act where law could not follow. In 1953, the agency's director was Allen Dulles, educated, respected, a man who believed the Cold War would not be won by force alone. Dulles spoke openly about the threat of brain warfare, of enemies who could erase identity, who could turn loyalty into a switch, on or off. To confront this threat, he authorized research that had no ethical precedent, no public oversight, no informed consent. The man chosen to run the program day to day was a chemist, not a general, not a psychologist. His name was Sidney Gottlieb. Gottlieb did not look dangerous. He dressed plainly. He spoke softly. He believed he was protecting his country. He controlled the chemicals, the funding, the network of institutions that would quietly cooperate. Universities received grants. Hospitals received equipment. Prisons received instructions. Most researchers never saw the full picture. They were told they were studying stress, memory, trauma, human resilience. The language mattered. Subjects, not people. Trials, not harm. National security, not accountability. Paperwork created distance. Each signature moved responsibility one step away from the result. No single man felt fully responsible, and that was the design. MKUltra was not approved by monsters. It was approved by professionals doing their jobs. The experiments did not look like torture. There were no chains, no screams, no interrogation rooms. They took place in hospitals, in university labs, in rented apartments known as safe houses. Sometimes the subjects volunteered. Sometimes they did not know they were subjects at all. The most common tool was a chemical, a substance believed to unlock the mind. LSD. It was administered in drinks, in pills, injected without explanation. Some subjects were told they were part of a study. Others were told nothing. They were observed from behind mirrors, their confusion documented. The goal was not pleasure. It was disintegration. How long until identity dissolved? Until memory fractured? Until a person could no longer tell what was real? Some sessions lasted hours. Others continued for days. Sleep deprivation was common. Lights kept on. Voices repeated. Silence weaponized. In some facilities, subjects were placed in isolation tanks, floating in darkness. No sound, no sense of time. Minutes stretched into hours. Thoughts collapsed inward. Some begged to stop. Others stopped speaking entirely. Electroconvulsive shocks were used, not for treatment, but erasure. Memory loss was considered progress. Confusion was considered success. Some subjects were prisoners. Some were psychiatric patients. Some were ordinary citizens, picked up because they were convenient. They did not know who was watching them. They did not know when it would end. They did not know what parts of themselves would remain. The objective was never mind control as fiction imagines it. It was something simpler: to break a human being into a state where resistance disappeared. In 1973, something unusual happened. Inside the Central Intelligence Agency, files began to disappear. No alarms, no investigations, just orders, issued quietly. Boxes were removed from storage rooms, folders pulled from cabinets. Years of research condensed into paper, then fed into shredders, burned, reduced to ash. The order came from the top. The reason was never written down. Officially, the program had ended. Unofficially, it had become a liability. Public trust was fragile. The Vietnam War had already damaged credibility. Another revelation, another secret, could break it. When Congress began asking questions, answers were incomplete. Records were missing. Witnesses could not remember, not because they forgot, but because the evidence was gone. Thousands of documents were destroyed. Only fragments survived. Accounting errors, misfiled boxes, paperwork that escaped the purge by accident. Those fragments revealed enough to be disturbing, but never enough to be complete. The scope will never be fully known. The number of subjects, unknown. The long-term damage, unmeasurable. What remained was plausible deniability. No full records, no full responsibility. MKUltra did not end with accountability. It ended with a paper trail that no longer existed. When the program ended, the experiments stopped. But the damage did not. Some subjects walked out alive. They returned to ordinary streets, to families, to jobs. but not to themselves. Memory was unreliable. Time felt fractured. Faces were familiar, without context. Some could not sleep. Others could not concentrate. Many struggled to hold a thought without losing it. Doctors documented symptoms: anxiety, depression, psychosis. They rarely documented causes. For years, most survivors did not know what had happened to them. There was no consent form to read, no report to request, no file to open. When fragments of MKUltra became public, some recognized themselves in the descriptions. A pill, a room, a mirror, a silence that now had a name. Lawsuits followed. Settlements were offered. Small sums, no admissions of guilt. No one went to prison. No one lost a career. The record remained incomplete by design. The survivors aged. Some stopped speaking. Some told their stories only once, always unsure whether they would be believed. MKUltra is often described as a relic of the Cold War, a moment when fear justified extremes. But fear did not invent it. It only gave permission. The question this program leaves us with is not how far science can go. It is how easily ordinary systems, budgets, approvals, silence, can turn people into experiments. And who decides when it happens again?